All right, welcome everybody. This week, Mark and I have the privilege of hopefully not boring you to death with the real estate market and sharing with you whether it is a good time to buy a house or not. So check it out. Welcome everybody to Get Real with Chris and Mark.
I just want to make funny faces and make you laugh.
You make me laugh.
Do the intro.
So this is our attempt to actually talk about the stuff that we do every day today. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna bore some people.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I know. I think maybe some people be interested.
Look,
There's got to be two people out there that will be interested in our podcast.
There'll be at least two.
At least two.
Both of my parents tune in. So,
That's questionable, Mark.
maybe not all the way.
They'll watch a little bit of it.
Yeah, but no, I think this is a great topic. Should you buy a house right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I got several clients right now, especially in the first-time home buyer spectrum. Which, by the way, speaking of first-time home buyers, like we're back, right? We got hijacked last week.
Yeah, I know.
The young folks stole our show.
They stole the show.
This is what happens when Chris and I don't show up to the studio because we're too busy in real estate.
Fine.
It's like, sorry guys, we're not going to make it. And they're like, well, okay,
too
well,
bad.
we're going to shoot with or without you.
The show must go on.
Yeah.
I believe that was a text that came
Right.
out, wasn't it?
And I love their topic, talking about why young people don't stay here. You know what I love the most? That whole episode.
Okay.
Okay, is that JJ kept talking about how he wanted to go other places to get to all this other stuff, but he doesn't know what any of that stuff is. He's like, I don't know. I'm not really sure what
but
I
I
want to
know
do.
it's there.
But I know it's there.
I know it's
And
there.
It was funny because the whole time, like, that's just a young person's mentality, right? They're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's out there. I must go explore and see. And then you're like, it's not really all that different.
Well, it's the same. It's there.
Like, you know what?
I always say,
I could live in New York and I could worry about getting mugged every day, or I could live in Southern Maryland and leave my doors unlocked.
Now that's a get real,
Hey.
right? If that's
Yeah, depending on where you live. in
I was
Southern
just going to say, you can't always leave your doors
Not
unlocked.
everywhere.
Not everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
Mine are definitely locked right now. So,
That's a good one. I think it's a great topic because we had the economic forum we attended last week, and you remember one of the conversations was keeping people here,
keeping young people here, and the fact that Maryland's demographic is aging, and
Right.
at the root of all that, right, we have this, which doesn't apply just to first-time home buyers, but it applies to all buyers. Should I buy a house right now?
I get that. It's interesting. Like I have buyers that have had for a long, long time.
Yep.
And they're asking the question because they were ready to buy a year ago and they
now
didn't find what they wanted exactly, and now they're like,
should I buy a
should
house?
I even buy a house right now?
So let's peel the onion back, starting with the fear.
Okay, I'm into that.
So what are we afraid of?
I'm gonna stifle that a little bit. Number one, I don't think it's that fear. I think it's the thought that it's so much more expensive now, right? I think that's
so you think they're not afraid to buy, but that they're afraid of the payment.
Yes, I think that's where we are now.
They're
Right.
afraid of the sales prices. They're afraid of the payment. They're afraid of competition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not being able to get closing costs.
Competition's a good one. I have people saying all the time, we
Don't want to get in a bidding war.
Don't want to get in a bidding war.
Which is
right.
so funny because I talk to sellers all the time, and their mentality is it's like, well,
let's get them into a bidding war.
If the price, or if they're yes, that's the right idea if you're a
Right.
seller. But if not, otherwise they overprice it, right?
Right.
And then they're like, but somebody would just make an offer.
Right. That
Buyers
is so
don't make
right on.
offers.
Buyers don't. You're right.
And going back to the topic, we haven't finished with the fears.
No,
yet.
I got
We're
you.
kind of bouncing around, but like going back to the topic at hand is that like that's part of the problem right now about buying a house is that people are too scared to make an offer. You know why? They all assume that somebody else will just pay it. They come through,
right.
they look.
Right.
They might like it a little bit. They don't like it at the current price point. They don't even think, and sorry agents, but I'm going to throw like the 80% of you that don't do a ton of business under the bus here. But in a lot of cases, the agent isn't skilled enough to
in some cases,
encourage
right.
them to make the offer.
Yeah.
Right? Or that they could potentially get closing costs. Or that they can negotiate, even if it is day one on market.
Do you know how many times have you been on the phone with another agent and said, and now this is maybe a little different market, but how many times I've been on Just bring us an offer.
Yeah.
Just make us an offer. Bring the seller an offer. That's
But
all you got to do.
it's heavy lifting. I think, yeah, it just depends on who that agent is, whether or not they do, or they have the skill set to encourage their buyer to put pen to paper. So going back to the fears, the fears real quick. So, we're scared of the high payment. We're scared of the high price point. We're scared of the high interest rate. We're scared that we're going to lose money. We're going to lose value. We're going to buy for too much, and then we won't be able to resell. We'll be underwater. Right?
We're scared of the economy. We're scared we're going to have a job 2 years from now, or a year from now, or 18 months from now. Those are all fears, though, right?
So it's funny. I've had this conversation a lot lately, and I had a realization personally recently. I was working on some stuff, and there was a notable milestone of success for me that happened, and I shared it with my wife, and I was like, I hit this milestone, and I look back, and I say, what? Do I regret anything? What would, now that I've arrived at this milestone?
You did a post-mortem.
Right. Like what would or could I have done differently? Yeah. And the answer was, I wish I would have been less scared.
That's
because I'm gonna tell you right now, like, I would have been so much more advanced in my career.
I get that.
In my investing. I could have gone so much further had I not been scared. And
but there's a balance too. You gotta, being scared and
there's a reason for fear. We all have that fight or flight for a reason. Right. But you have to determine whether or not you've broken down all those fears. So that's why I wanted to start with fear.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that's the number one thing is how the fears, and the many of them. It's not just one.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show before. But the investment property that I have that actually I have the most, well, not the most equity, because my primary I have the most equity in, but investment property I have the most equity in. Mm-hmm. That I essentially did the best. I had the highest rate of return on, essentially. Okay. I almost didn't buy it. Yeah. And it's because I was scared I was overpaying for it. Yeah. I'll never forget it. It was an online auction, one of them Hubzu things,
Really?
I'm on there bidding.
It
got to a certain point, I was like, man, I was at 179,000. I said, if it hits 180, I'm out. Yeah. I'm done with this thing. I'm not going to buy it. And I bought it for 179,000. Wow. That house is worth 330 today.
Nice.
And I almost didn't buy it.
Yeah, I get it.
And it was all based off of fear. Going back to that, let's break down these fears. So one, am I paying too much? Can I afford this payment? Well, where are you living now?
Well, right. And what are you paying now?
What are you paying now? Can you afford that payment?
And are you paying it for somebody else? That's the whole.
And are you paying it into somebody else's pocket, right?
And I always believe in that.
That's a beautiful thing about, home ownership that you don't pay attention to. That principal payment is savings. It's forced savings, right?
It's forced savings, yeah.
And it's not just about tax write-offs and all that other kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I look at it. My principal payment's pretty hefty, and I'm like, that's a good chunk of change that I'm saving every year, right?
Right.
So.
If not, I mean, you'd be paying it in rent, and you're not getting anything.
Right. And rents are also
all up
high right now. Now, if you're looking at a $500,000 house, the rents may not be as high, because
maybe
when you get in the upper tier price points, the payments do get a little bit heftier. So I think that's a personal question that you have to ask whether or not you can handle that.
Well, that's everybody's right. Everybody has their payment, what it's going to be, whether it's
right. It just gets multiplied when you get into $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 range. And the other thing to remember is that these rates are not going to last forever. Okay, and I hesitate saying that, just like I said that it was.
When we were talking about our bold predictions at the beginning of the year,
it was definitely going to snow 2 feet in March, which didn't happen. So take what I say with a grain of salt. But I don't believe that the rates are going to be this high forever. So.
I don't either. I think once the Feds and that bond market adjusts a little bit, I think we'll have some.
Once the economy starts to really pull back a little bit,
then we'll have some. But
and look, that means that there will be a season where you're going to question this decision whether or not you bought a house or whether or not you should have bought a house.
True.
There's going to be a tough spot ahead. And
no, you're right. And we don't think about this, but as the economy improves, actually, generally, sales prices in residential construction, they go up.
Right.
Because people are willing, they have more
Right.
more to spend, they spend more, you know.
And we've been on that bull run for a long time. So there is going to be an adjustment.
Right.
But you can't time a market. You can't time any market.
No.
Right? So the real estate market is the same way. By the way, I'm saying this as a buyer. I have 2 offers out right now, personally,
Right.
for properties to purchase.
Right.
So I'm buying right now.
Right.
I do think it's a good time to buy. So the other side of it is the fear of, well, I can't negotiate. Everything's going to be competitive.
Yeah.
I can't get closing costs. I got a deal under contract right now. Seller's paying 4% in closing.
No. I had the last 3 deals I've had. The seller's paying closing.
Right. So we're getting closing costs paid.
We're getting some. Yeah.
We're getting buyers into houses with
Yeah.
little to no money out of pocket.
Right.
In some cases, and then we're also negotiating some off the sales price. And look, it's not always about whether or not you get a good deal. It's not about whether or not you slash the sales price. It's whether or not you get a good deal in the house.
Right, absolutely. And the good deal doesn't necessarily mean the sales price. It could be terms. It could be anything.
Just sold one, multiple offers, listed at $250,000. We sold it for, I think we landed at $260 at the end of the day, but we got some concessions back on top of that. So that same house appraised for $295.
Nice.
So my client bought this house for her first home.
It has equity.
Super excited. She settled today, actually.
Yeah, nice. Equity day one.
And yeah, she's like, I think it was $36,000
Nice.
total. She's like, I have $36,000 in equity. I'm like, yes, that's right. There are still deals to be had.
No, absolutely. And you and I see them all the time, and we see some of these deals, and I'm looking at it. I was showing a client this weekend, and I went into the house, and I said, this is the first time and I always, I'm kind of a straight shooter when it comes to pricing with my clients and stuff. And I'm showing this buyer this house, and I'm like, I think this house is priced right.
Yeah.
Like, how rare do you know what I mean? Normally I'm like, we can do this, we can get some of that. No, I think this house is priced right. It's a good, we can get you, it's a good deal at its current price, you know?
Yep. So what about the fear of what if the market goes down? Yeah. What if I'm upside down in value?
I mean, in some cases, that's a very legitimate fear, right? Because you remember the 09, 10, 11, 12, and the short sale boom.
And I remember the people that came to me, and we were able to help them rent the property if they couldn't sell it right away.
Right. Short sale it or
short sale it if we had to.
Right.
But the short sale really only came if they came too late. Yeah. There was usually another way to fix things if they came sooner, right? If they got in touch with an agent. I think
we went on a big education attempt to try and educate the consumer and say, hey, talk to your agent, right? Like, talk to your real estate agent, because we're going to be able to, we can help you now. We might not be able to help you in 3 months.
Right, exactly.
And
I don't know that we're going to see anything like that.
Well, I mean, let's be real. Interest rates over the last few years have been phenomenally low.
But, so let's just hit that fear right on the head, right? So if you bought a house in 2008, you were underwater at one point, right?
Probably. Mm-hmm.
Now, you've owned that house for the last 15 years. You've been making payments on it.
Yeah.
And you've paid it down. Is there a point now where you could sell that house for more money?
Absolutely, there is. Right. No, I get it. I totally understand that.
You only lose money if you sell it. And that's the key thing to understand, that like you have to, if you sell the property, then you lose money. Don't sell your property in a down market. Simple.
Yeah, if you can afford to make the payment and continue to make that payment, then do it.
And even if you can't, move out and have somebody come in and rent it.
Have somebody else who can do it, right.
Yep. Right. And I don't think that's changing. See, the thing is we have a national housing shortage. Across the board.
Absolutely.
There's not enough housing, whether it be that's why rents are high.
Well, I told you, Maryland's January was 120,000 units short.
Right.
That's a housing shortage.
So those people are living in mom's basement.
That's right.
Basically. So that's not going away anytime soon, especially not here.
No, I mean, especially not here. We talk about like ADUs, accessory dwelling units, where you can maybe add some additional housing, but that doesn't solve the problem right now. There's so many facets that need to be done. It's interesting because the fear is what gets us restricted and holds us back. And when we talk about interest rates, my first house was 8.25. 8.25 was my interest rate. So they're not there today.
So I think that the back half of this year, there's going to be some phenomenal buying opportunities. I think
is that your bold prediction?
It's my bold
Are we
prediction.
doing bold predictions again now?
Well, Yeah, we don't want to say that in the title because I think
Right.
that bold predictions episode got like 80
Yeah, I
views.
know. We had nobody watched it. They
By the
didn't
way,
care.
if you're the 81st person watching this episode, thank you
Thank
for
you for
topping
80,
the bold
81
prediction.
people.
But going back to the bold predictions, we both kind of predicted that the market was going to be up or steady.
We
right?
did, yeah.
And we're definitely up for
Yeah,
the year
yeah.
so far. I personally think that the back half of this year, I think we're going to see values dip a little bit. Last year we actually lost 10% from January or from
Right.
July to January. I think it'll look somewhat similar this
Do you
year.
think that much? I don't. Here's the thing. I think we've
know
already
that
taken a
much.
little bit of a slowdown. If you notice, the prices have still been increasing this year.
Yep.
Right. But I think I want to say last month it was only year over year was only like half a point increase in price. I think across the board, Southern Maryland, something like that.
Which means that we gained back what we lost.
That's
Which
right.
is exactly what we did.
That's
dipped
right.
like 10%, and then we gained the 10% back this spring.
Gained 8 to 10% back.
And
in
now,
the spring.
now we're going to see
you think
another.
we're gonna slip again?
Yeah, and that's normal. If you think a normal year for us used to be a 6% increase, 3% decrease, 3% overall.
And that's the thing for us, in our business that's interesting. Like, we represent buyers and sellers, right? So we do both, right? The market has been very seller driven, I think, these last few years, we'll say, right?
Yep.
And now maybe if we see some buyer positivity for buyers, it'll actually increase the market a little bit too.
Yeah.
If you're saving in price, the interest rate doesn't matter as much, right?
Yeah.
If you're saving it in price, you're paying less. And likewise, if you get the rate down, you're paying more and still a wash.
Yeah. And there will be an opportunity to refinance at some point.
I do believe that.
I'm not saying that it'll be in 6 months.
And I'm not saying it's going to be 2%. Or
it's not going to be 2%.
Right.
I don't think we're going to see. If we see 2% interest rates, that means that our economy we got bigger things to worry about.
Well, true.
If we see 2% interest rates,
again,
our economy is in a tailspin.
Yeah,
and that's not good. So.
Right, that's for sure. At the end of the day, I feel it's a good time to. It is a good time to buy. I mean, if there's. If you can find the right product, the right house, we know the challenges of inventory right now. There's not as many out there, but it's still, if you find the right one, get over the rate issue because you can. That sounded really rude, by the way. Get over the rate issue. Get over the rate issue. But the truth is, you said you're going to be able to refi and do something with it.
The market's not going to crash. Okay,
Right.
If you're waiting for things to just catastrophically crash. That's not happening anytime soon. So if you want to get out of mom's basement in the next 2 or 3 years, you should probably start looking now.
Do it now. Mm-hmm.
And I venture to say between now and 2 or 3 years from now, like the market, I don't think it's going to be horrifically different. You know,
it's interesting.
And if rates come down, it's going to be more competitive again. So don't wait. Don't follow everyone else.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to look at it is like everybody's running this way or talking about going this way.
Yeah.
You should always go the other way because that's where the opportunity is.
There's so many of those buyers out there that, you need to take that opportunity now. Do it while you can.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. If you can do it, do it.
Yep.
And what my point was is that you ask any of my clients that bought 2, 3, 4 years ago if they're better off than they were then.
They all got $100,000 in equity.
That's right. They all got equity. Yeah. They're all loving life.
That's the beauty of home ownership too. Like when you get to sell somebody's house after they lived there for 3 years and they get $100,000 for most people is somewhat life changing.
Oh yeah.
And real estate does that. I've made more money in real estate than anything else.
Right.
I'm invested in the stock market. I've invested more cash in the stock market than I've ever invested in real estate, and the amount that I've earned in real estate exceeds what I've earned in the stock market like 6 or 7 times over.
Yeah, I believe that.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so the fact still remains that buying real estate is a positive.
I'm still buying.
Positive economic thing. So.
Yep.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Right. This whole episode, the answer is yes.
The answer is go buy a house.
Go buy a house.
Call me and Chris. We're gonna hook you up.
We're gonna get you the right deal.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I guess we'll wrap it up and see you next week.
See you.